Well, the WPIAL has finally released its basketball brackets. There are some interesting decisions, some good decisions, some questionable ones. We're going to break it all down for you tonight, our special edition of the Varsity Extra podcast. Hi, I'm Post-Gazette high school sports editor Keith Barnes, along with my colleague Brad Everett and the esteemed Mike White. We're going to take the boys' brackets, the girls' brackets. We're going to break it down by who we think is going to win. We're going to give you predictions and anything else you could ever imagine about what came out today from the WPIAL. Let's start it off really quick. Let's just jump right in. What are your first impressions of the brackets coming out?
Well, I'll go first, I guess, Keith. My first impressions is that, this is a wonderful time of the year. So I have an idea. For the WPIAL. Know what would be really neat and really cool is if you had brackets that everybody could read. I'm serious. I've been hearing it from everybody. I mean, the brackets they have on the website that they sent out and now on our website, I mean, you can't read half of them. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, they get criticized too much for some things, but I mean, people can't see the seeds next to the teams. There's mistakes. Hey, they happen, but you can't read. I had to put my computer on like 400% to see the teams. I still can't see hardly, and it's not my eyes. And I'm not the only one. So I think it would be really neat next year, or maybe the next few rounds. How about getting brackets out that everybody can read?
A+ for the sponsorship, F- for the execution on the graphics. Oh, those are ugly. Brad, what do you got to say about it?
Yeah, that's a big ask, Mike. I don't know if I don't know if they're capable of doing something like that. But there was no need to reinvent the wheel on this. It worked every year with what they had. They've even had advertisements on them in past years. For people that haven't seen, it's pretty much the brackets are on the top half of the file. And the names of the schools and the seeds are very, very small. Magnifying glass doesn't even work. Maybe a telescope. And the bottom half of the bracket is just all advertisements. It's just all advertisements. And when you print it out, it's just the whole page.
You can't print it out.
It's just bad. It's just not good.
It's like you get the appetizer menu and you're looking at it and saying, yeah, but there's nothing on here I can eat because I don't know what this is.
Well, and we need to move on from this, but I just wonder things like this, like when they sat around and got these and made these brackets, I'm sure they did a sample copy, and mind-blowing thing is, yeah, you know what? That looks good. I like that. That looks pretty good. Who did that?
Yeah, as a wise man,
huge high-def screen. On a high-def computer screen, and they're looking at it in a high-def screen and looking at the graphics saying, hey, this looks great, and didn't think to print it out and look at it this big.
Well, I was at KDK, and they put it up on a gigantic screen, and they couldn't read half of it either, especially the seed. So anyway, we probably went too long on this. So let's
you know what? Hey, it's the playoffs. We can go as long as we want. We can go overtime. We can double overtime because games don't end until there's a winner. So, but while we're at it, let's jump into the actual brackets themselves. Let's start in the boys. We'll start in 6A. And obviously the big question coming in was who's going to be number one? Was it going to be Upper St. Clair? Was it going to be Newcastle? The committee pretty much universally went with Upper St. Clair. And I personally, I don't have a problem with either team being number one. They're both one-loss teams. It's just a question of who do you think is hot going into the playoffs, and they decided on Upper St. Clair. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, there were three classes that I thought there were arguments for maybe one or two or even three teams to be number one. And in all three of those brackets, I picked the wrong one. And, this was one of them in 6A. I went with Newcastle. Both of those teams have great resumes, as does Central Catholic. I thought, all three of those teams are very worthy of that number one seed. I just thought Newcastle, I thought they were just more impressive for most of the season than Upper St. Clair was. And also Newcastle, a little bit better in the non-conference schedule. They challenged themselves a little bit more this year, and they have those non-conference wins against Knock, against Aliquippa, and they even beat Lincoln Park too. So I would have given it to Newcastle.
Sorry, disagree with you there, big boy. If they went with Newcastle, I wouldn't have had a big problem. I don't think it could have been Central, although I think Central's right up there with both of them simply because they have two losses, and one of them was the Moon. But I think coming down the stretch, you said, Brad, they were more impressive. Newcastle did lose 2 weeks ago to Pine Richland. They went to overtime with Woodland Hills. They had a close game with Seneca Valley at home. Close game with Pine Richland the other time at home. But that section's better than the other section from top to bottom. And they, I just think that St. Clair pretty much dominated everybody down the stretch, except Mount Lebanon last week in that rivalry game. And so I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I think Upper St. Clair deserved to get it, but not because they're the two-time defending champions. I am so sick of that logic that, well, they're the defending champs, so we gave it to them. That's not last year's team. It's not 2 years ago.
But that's exactly what they said, because I know
they say that all the time, and I just
that was said about this game. That was said about this bracket. Let's be honest
my
about
mind. Boggles, and the other one is they give so much credence to maybe of who beat who in the last time they played. Why not look at the whole body of work? You know, they do a lot of good things, but that's one of my pet peeves. Well, they're the defending champion. I can see if there's two teams that are totally even, but they say it sometimes when, I don't know. I don't think there are teams that are even. They say, well, they're the defending champions, so we gave it to them. Why? That's last year.
Well, let's put it this way. Both teams have 16-game winning streaks this year. One ended, and the other one is still current. But when you look at the whole bracket as a whole, who do you see as the team that's going to come out of here as the WPIAL champion at the end of it?
Well, I'll go first. I'm not answering that question because of my affiliation with North Hill, so I'm not going to answer it. I would like to know, though, how Seneca Valley and North Hill's tied for second. Seneca got the number 4 seed. North Hill's got the number 6 seed. I would just like to know the logic behind that. I'm not going to sit here and complain, but I would like to know the logic behind it, but I won't know that. So I'm not going to complain about that. But, you know, I'm not going to answer as a champion. That's you guys can do that.
First of all, I'm going to say this. Since shout out to Steve Rothstein, who could not be here tonight. He's been sick, so we hope he's getting better. Steve said Newcastle. I've got his picks right here. I'm going to read those off as we go along, just because I promised that I would, and it's only fair. So Steve picked Newcastle in this game as the champion. I'm kind of with him on this. You know, I like what Newcastle's done this year. I like that threesome they have. I like Kai Cox, and you know, Marino Graham's been great for them as a freshman. I think they're going to build a little bit. I think sometimes you need a loss at the end of the year to kind of build back into it, and that helps a lot of teams. When you have that long winning streak, you had a 16-game winning streak to start the year, you lose a game, all of a sudden it refocuses you, it gets you back on track. Might work for Newcastle. That's why I'm thinking. That's why I'm going to pick the Red Hurricanes to win it.
Yeah, those three top teams, like we said, Upper St. Clair, Newcastle, Central, all three of them outstanding defensively. So that's going to be cool to see in these playoffs, just some really good defensive teams. Now, I would have taken Newcastle as the 1 seed. Now, that said, I'm picking Upper St. Clair to win the title. Just the feeling I have on that one. I think they're really going to need to get some strong play from Ryan Robbins. And, you know, he does provide it a lot of the time. I think if he plays well, you know, that's a guy that, you know, not a lot of teams in 6A, maybe outside of Pine Richland, you know, have a true big like that can do things down low. Really, like
he's not as good as Ryan Robbins at Pine Richland.
No,
he's no Ryan Robbins.
No, he's not. Well, I bet Ryan Robbins isn't as good as volleyball as the kid from Pine Richland is. Right? You know, so there's that. But like I think between Robbins and I really like Jake Foster at point guard too. I mean, he's, you know, not a big scorer. Those Upper St. Clair kids never are. Just really balanced. Just really team oriented. But I like Upper St. Clair, even though Newcastle, man, that big three they have with Marino, Damien, and with Kai Cox, man, like no one has that either. So that's going to be tough.
I'll tell you what, don't sleep on Central Catholic pulling off that upset either, because man, that defense, Brian Urso's defense is just so good. So yeah, we've got our picks in for 6A. Let's move on to 5A here. This was kind of interesting to me, you know, with what happened with having 3 teams from the same section as 3 of the top 4 seeds. I mean, I think 1 and 2, I think were pretty straightforward. I saw Chartiers Valley and Lincoln Park. I don't know. I didn't see Moon coming in at number 4. I had them as an 8 for a reason when I did my bracketology. I'll explain that.
Explain it now, because I saw that. How did you have Moon at number 8? They were 17-3 and they beat Central Catholic. and they beat Char Valley.
Why I said that was because I was trying to figure out a way that they would end up playing Chartiers Valley in a repeat, that they would rematch them. I didn't think that they would end up putting them as a 4. I did not see that coming. So I put them as an 8 because I thought that it was a very winnable game with an 8-9 against Franklin Regional, and they would end up playing Chartiers Valley in the quarterfinals. That's why I picked them at 8.
Yeah, but they're not an 8 seed. They're not even 7, 6, or 5.
The committee is sometimes unpredictable with that when it comes down to things of putting 3 teams from the same section in the top 4. That was the only reason why I bumped them down. I've seen Moon play 3 times. I think they're really good. And I think they deserve where they got seeded, but I didn't think the committee would do that.
Yeah, like I thought the top 4 was right. I might have had Moon at 3 and Thomas Jefferson at 4, but I mean, that's the only thing I would have changed there.
TJ's an intriguing team.
Yeah, they are.
A lot of people criticize them for, how good are they? I mean, they still beat Peters Township in a section. No, their section's not as good as Lincoln Park, Moon, and Char Valley, but they have to be pretty good. So I have no problem where they put Thomas Jefferson. But they are an intriguing team because I think there's a lot of people who think how good are they? And these players will tell.
So the question is, who wins it?
Well, I've gone with Chartiers Valley as the number 1 team since the beginning of the season. I really like them. I still do. They don't have much size, but their guard play is. But the only question is, I don't know how that shoulder is with Julian Semplis. I saw him in that Lincoln Park game, and he hurt that shoulder the game before that, and it looked like he had trouble shooting because of that shoulder. He had a harness on it. I don't know how well that's healed. But I'm still going to go with them. I love Luca Federico. He got an offer from LaSalle. He's going to get a lot more, I think, in the next year or 2. I just really love him as a sophomore. I'm sticking with Char Valley.
Yeah, one team I'd like to throw in there too, Penn Hills. They've been really strong. And, about 25 years ago, they had a kid by the name of Drew Shafino that put his team on his back through the playoffs, had some huge games. And watch out for Amon Hawthorne because he's on a streak right now. He's averaging about 30 a game over the past couple weeks. So, maybe he can do something similar for that Penn Hills team. But I'm going to take Char Valley too. Mike, that's a great point there about Julian Semplis. I was at that Lincoln Park game. He did not score in that game until I think the 4th quarter. So they're going to need him at least mostly healthy to possibly.
Brad, it looked like he could shoot layups fine going to the hoop and things. But I didn't see him shoot an outside shot. When he shot foul shots, he looked like he really was struggling. But I will see him scrimmage on Wednesday, and I'll know a little bit more about him.
Yeah, they play so well as a team. They share the ball so well. You mentioned Semplis and Federico. Julius Best has been outstanding off the bench for him. He's always doing something when he comes off. So
he's at his best.
Oh yeah, pretty good. And great first round matchup too. Is looking at it's going to be Indiana at Gateway next week with 2 big time players there in Bruce McCrommon and Aaron Webb. So that's going to be a top matchup. And Char Valley number 1, they're my pick, but certainly not unbeatable. I mean, they've played some close games too. All 4 of their games against Lincoln Park and Moon have been single digit games. So they certainly are the favorite, but not a lock by any means.
I think that Indiana Gateway game is one of the best first round games of any classification, just because of the players.
I agree with that. I think when you got Bruce McCrommon coming up against Moon, and they're good outside shooters there, I think that's going to be a really nice match in the quarters if it comes down to that. And my winner, I think it's going to be Lincoln Park. And the reason why is I don't think Char Valley is going to get past Moon again. If Semplis is not playing up to his capabilities, Moon has the outside shooting, and they're physical enough to be able to beat them again. And if that happens, you get Lincoln Park and Moon. And Moon's had problems with Lincoln Park this year. That's not a good matchup for them. And if it comes down to that matchup in the finals, I'd say Lincoln Park. And for everybody who needs to know, Steve picked Char Valley. All right.
When it comes to big game, when it comes down to big game experience, not many teams have someone like Josh Pratt. He's played in quite a few over here.
I've seen what Josh did against Moon the last time they played. I think he had 30 against them or something like that, and he was dominant. And if it comes down to, like I said, I think Moon can beat Char Valley this time around again, especially if Semplis is hurt. and that gives them an advantage coming in, but they have not been able to handle Lincoln Park. It is not a good matchup for Moon at all. And if it comes down to Moon and Lincoln Park, I take Lincoln Park. Okay, so let's move on to 4A. This was kind of one of the surprises. Quaker Valley getting the number 1 seed over North Catholic and Knock, which kind of battled it out in their section. They split the section this year. I was at both of those games, the incredible games, but very different games for a reason. Mike, what do you see in this one, in this class?
Well, I saw some comments from Bill Cardone from the WPIAL basketball committee, and he said Knock splitting with North Catholic, that made the committee kind of go to Quaker Valley because they were undefeated in their section. I don't know if that's the reason you should do that, make them number 1, but I have no problem with them number 1. I'd have put North Catholic number 1 and Knock 2 and Quaker Valley 3, because now if things go to chalk, you've got I would have liked to have seen Knock and North Catholic on the opposite side of the brackets. And now if things go to chalk, they're going to meet in the semifinals. But Quaker Valley's good. I mean, and the thing they do is they can really shoot the ball. I looked today. They have 4 players with at least 24 3-pointers this year. That's a lot for a high school team from around here. Nick Cohen, a sophomore, is 60. Mike Masserini, I don't have to tell you about him as a coach. They're good, but my pick to win it in this is North Catholic.
Brad, what do you got?
Saying this is my championship pick, but how good would it be to see a Knock Quaker Valley championship matchup? Those two coaches close to 1,200 wins between them. That would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, like I would have done, just like you said, Mike, I would have done the North Catholic Knock and then Quaker Valley number 3. Good Quaker Valley team. You mentioned Nick Cohen, Zach Washington's, kind of quietly had a really good year too. I mean, he can really put up the points for them. North Catholic, they do it with offense, most high scoring team in the WPIAL. Knock, they do it with defense, number 1 scoring defense in Class 4A. I like North Catholic though. I think with that too, with Jason Fredericks and with Jude Rotman, throwing Brandon Pickett in there, and that guards, that backcourt's really good. And lost in the final last year, and I think they get it done this year.
I think after watching both of those games, you can see the dichotomy between the two. North Catholic lost that first game because of the fact that Frederick got in foul trouble, and so did Jude Rotman. They missed the entire second quarter, and Frederick ended up with 26 in that game, but the entire team was out of flow. In the second game, they were both in the entire game, and you could see just how North Catholic does it. They had their passing game going. They were on point the entire time. Rotman was in double digits. Fredericks had 26, and when he told me after the game, the coaches told him, "Don't get in foul trouble." That they know that's the key. You keep him and Jude Rotman out of foul trouble, they're tough out, and I think they win it all. I picked them earlier. I will pick them again. I think they're the team to beat. Let's go to 3A now.
Wait, I think North Catholic is one of the funnest teams to watch in the WPIAL. Maybe number 1. The way they play the style,
just watching them just pour the ball in from 3-point range and hit like NBA bombs all through the warm-up it's just fun to watch that. It's amazing. I threw the Pleasantville reference out there when you watch the kids. It's still the black and white movie, and all the kids are throwing the ball in from everywhere, and it's just like all the balls just go right into the hoop every single time. That's watching North Catholic in the warm-ups. That's how good they are from the outside. But
just one more team to keep an eye on too in that class, Derry, a team that you saw last week. Keith, ended that long section drought that they had, section championship drought. But with Stanley Rakovich, pretty good player right there, probably one of the best juniors in the WPIAL. So with his size, it's going to give a lot of people problems. And they play Deer Lakes here on Friday, which is a pretty good opening round game there.
Yeah.
Evan Moore's had a really good year there for Deer Lakes. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah,
Derry has won 1 playoff game in their history.
Unbelievable.
They may win their second this year. We'll see. Let's move to 3A. Now, there was no controversy at the top of this one. Everybody had Mohawk as number 1 going into the season, and I don't think that's changed at all. With what they bring to the table, the question is, can Aliquippa beat them in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't know. If you're asking me right now to make the pick, I think I'm going to take Mohawk. I'm going to go with the chalk on this one. I think they're the best team out there until somebody proves me wrong.
Go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead, Brad. It's on you.
Yeah, I'm going to take Mohawk too, man. I'll tell you what, that result last week when they beat Aliquippa, I mean, it wasn't like a 2 or 3 point game. I mean, they hammered them pretty well.
Yeah.
And you don't see that happen to an Aliquippa team very often. But Mohawk, veteran team, they really get it after it defensively too. And, Bobby Fadden, we've talked about him and just what he's able to bring to the table. So, I like Mohawk there. Of course, Aliquippa, it's hard to go against a team that makes it to the finals and wins as many championships, like as Aliquippa. But, compared to some other teams Aliquippa's had in recent years, probably not quite as good. It might have been a different story if, they still had the Pratt brothers there, but, they'll work with what they have. And, I think Mohawk, Mike O'Lear going for WPIAL title number 3, but first on the boys side. So that's going to be a pretty interesting storyline there. And, team to watch out for too. I think they're a pretty low seed, but South Allegheny, haven't been super impressive all year, but they're heating up here late in the season. And Drew Cook is on an absolute tear right now. So, that's a guy that could put his team on there, that could put his team on his back. And he may do that in this playoffs.
That'll be a great second round game if it comes down to a South Allegheny versus Mohawk, because that's exactly what it's heading for. If it goes to chalk, because they're the 8th seed, and that could be a lot of fun to watch those teams go at it. I'll tell you what, the one upset I'm going to pick right now is my first round upset. I'm picking a 12-5 upset. I'm picking Wash High to beat Southmoreland in the first round.
Ooh.
There's going to be your first seed to go.
That wouldn't be a shock. I love the Southmoreland.
I don't think it will be. Maybe seed LaSalle this year. And I don't think Southmoreland is as good as a 5 seed. I think they were seeded way high only because they won that section.
Well, a couple factoids here for you. Bobby Fadden now has 2,106 points. And South Allegheny's won 6 of 7. Drew Cook, the last 5 games, averaged 32.6 points a game. 4 30-point games in a row. Like Brad said, he is really coming on. How about he finished as the leading scorer in the WPIAL this year. But how about this, though? Only 6 times since 1986 has the leading scorer in a WPIAL regular season won a WPIAL championship. You want to know who those 6 are?
Yes, I do.
Some pretty good names.
It would be one of them.
Some pretty good names. Here we go. 1993, Kevin Price at Duquesne. Went to Duquesne University and played. 2001, Eddie Petersen, Stowe Rocks. Matty McConnell, 2015. 2018, Robbie Carmody. In the last 2, maybe you've heard of them. 2003, Darrell Rivas. 2010, TJ McConnell. That's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah, a lot of history going against Drew Cook.
Yes.
I still think
I don't know if he's on the level of those guys.
I still think it's going to be a great matchup if they end up playing Mohawk in the second round. I think it's going to be great. I mean, consider what Drew Cook did in his last game against, when they played Seton LaSalle, scoring 27 points in the second half of that game and 18 in the fourth quarter when they needed it. That was an impressive performance from him. And they, in South Allegheny, needed it in a big way. And when you're going to knock off a potential section champion and keep them from a section championship in that way, that says a lot about where he is and where that team might be peaking at the right time. I still think that's going to be a great game moving forward. By the way, I forgot to say, Steve picked North Catholic in 4A and Mohawk in 3A.
Hold on 1 second. Got a question for you guys. Depending on what Bobby Fadden does in the playoffs here, but what if he goes on, they win a championship and he scores like 2,300 points? What he did in football, the second player to have 1,000 in his career in receiving, rushing, and passing. He plays baseball and going to run track too. Does he have a legitimate shot of being athlete of the year?
Oh yeah, I think football said yes.
He's not a big time recruit in any of those sports. I think he's going to play Division III basketball. But what he has done, I think he might be the favorite even right now.
I don't dispute that at all. In fact,
but your legacy.
If you want to tell that story tomorrow, you can. I'm all for it. Just put it to bed.
Your legacy, though, is made in the postseason. So a lot will depend on what he does in the postseason.
I agree. Let's move on to 2A now. And this was one of the controversial picks. Jeanette over undefeated Sewickley Academy as the number 1 seed. I was at the game last year when Jeanette beat Sewickley Academy and really beat them up. I mean, they beat that team by 20, and it wasn't close. Jeanette it wasn't like they were hitting free throws down the stretch to lengthen that out. They beat them up and beat them inside and beat them at their own game. So for Jeanette, I had no problem with them being the number 1 seed. And I know, Mike, you're going to say that was last year. This is the same Jeanette team that's back this year. And they haven't lost to a team from Pennsylvania yet. The only team they lost to is a team from Kentucky. Adrian Batts has this team exactly where he wants them. They've got some great players on this team, and I have no problem with them being the number 1.
I'm going to say this. I think they can win the championship. But if I was going to seed teams right now, I would seed Sewickley Academy number 1, simply because of their whole body of work. I know Jeanette has all their players back from last year, but so does Sewickley Academy pretty much. And this is not this is not last year. I mean, Jeanette barely got by Clairton the other night, who wasn't a bad team. Jeanette beat Springdale 53-44. Sewickley Academy hasn't had close games like that in their own classification, and they've even beat 6A teams. So I'm not saying Jeanette can't win it. They can't. They definitely can win it. But I would pick Sewickley Academy number 1 right now.
Well, a little breaking news on that. Just before we started recording tonight, Sewickley Academy suffered their first loss of the year to Roselle Catholic. They lost in a buzzer beater in overtime.
Sure. So, we're not undefeated anymore. We've got 2 1-loss teams. Okay, now we're good. Almost right in the world.
So now we have 2 1-loss teams. Yeah, I mean, I think Jeanette, they certainly have a resume capable of being a number 1 seed, but I just thought it would have went to Sewickley. I mean, they have just been dominant against all competition, no matter the class. They've beaten Class 2A teams by an average of 51 points a game this year. 51 points. They're not going to beat Jeanette by 51. Who knows? Jeanette may beat them again. Who knows? But I thought Sewickley Academy should have been the number 1.
Well, who's our pick?
So who do you think won it all?
My pick's going to be Sewickley. That defense only give up 29 points a game all season. They got the 2 big guys. Their guards are good. They're just a complete package. I think they come back and maybe they win a state title this year too.
I'll go Sewickley also, and the main reason is because of the size. Jeanette has a little bit of size, but I think that might be too hard to handle unless Jeanette shoots the ball really, really well. I'll go Sewickley.
Steve picked Sewickley as well. I'm going to be the outlier. I'm going with Jeanette. I like what the Jayhawks have. I've seen them play against Clairton in the first time around, and they're athletic and they're well coached. This is a disciplined team, and that's something that's going to carry them a long way if they're going to play Sewickley Academy again, is that discipline. And Adrian Batts knows how to get the most out of these kids, and he's going to when the chips are down. That's my belief. I picked Jeanette. Adrian's probably going to hate me for it, but I don't care. Okay, not a 1A. Number 1, not a surprise with Neighborhood Academy. They're the defending champions, defending state champions. Where do you see this bracket shaking out?
Well, go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think Neighborhood Academy is the favorite here again. I think probably heavy favorite. Although, if there's one team that I think can maybe give them a good run, it would be the team that's most familiar with them, and that would be Sarah Catholic. And I think the most recent time they played them, I think they won by a decent amount, but that was a single-digit score the first time around when they played them. So I think just that familiarity that Sarah has.
Neighborhood only beat them by 3 the last time.
Oh, by 3 last time.
Okay. The first time. The second time they beat them by 9 or 10.
Okay.
By 10, actually.
So, and I mean, I don't think the Sarah team is probably as good as they were last year when they made it to the final, but, they have that familiarity there with Neighborhood, playing without Julius Pace Jr., who's out with an injury. So a lot's falling on Kadron Gilmore there, but he's really stepped up his scoring in recent games. So they'll be riding him. Senior Derek Hardiman on that team, another key player. So I like Neighborhood Academy. Not a lot of, really good teams, not a lot of teams at all in Class 1A. So, not a ton to pick from. I'm interested to see this Section 1, how good Nazareth Prep is and how good Avella is, because you really haven't seen either of those teams. Nazareth Prep, great in section, but outside of section, I think they only won a game or two. So, and the Avella Eagles have been, flying pretty high too, but I like Neighborhood Academy to repeat.
I like Sarah to win this. And the reason is, I hate to jump you on this one, Mike, but I like Sarah Catholic. I'm going against all the chalk on this because they're the 6th seed. They got the best path to the final. They got Avella, which has not been very good outside of section. They already played Nazareth Prep, beat them 82-47 the first time around. Sarah's got a clean path to the finals. And since they played Nazareth, like you said, they're familiar with Nazareth Prep. They are with Neighborhood Academy. They know exactly what they've got. They're going to come into this game knowing that they almost won the first time around when they played. It was a little different the second time, but they were still in the game. I think Sarah Catholic's got just enough to maybe pull it out in the third time around. So they're my pick to win 1A this year.
Well, I'm going with Neighborhood Academy also, but here's my thing. I don't understand the seeding. And I know
I don't either.
a lot of people had Nazareth Prep number 2, including you, I think, Keith. Let's look at this. Okay, Neighborhood's the number 1 seed, no doubt. Nazareth Prep is 8-11. Or they might be 8-12 now. Monessen is 11-8. Sarah's 11-9. Yeah, they finished 2nd, 3rd in their section. Sarah beat Nazareth Prep 82-47. Monessen beat Nazareth Prep 67-56. Monessen beat a Charleroi team that's a 3A playoff team. Sarah kept close with Neighborhood Academy. Nazareth Prep just, I don't see how they're the number 2 seed, even though they're a section champ. And this is part of the thing that I see with WPIAL sometimes, their inconsistency. I mean, there was one of the other classes that a team was a section champ, and they put them number 4 or 5, and I just don't know how you put them again in head-to-head competition. Monessen and Sarah beat them both, and they beat them handily. I just don't see how they are. They just lost to Summit Academy, and then there's Avella. Avella's seeded what, 4th? They just lost to Beaver County Christian.
They're seeded 3rd.
Avella's 3rd.
That was a 3 seed. Sarah.
They just lost to Beaver County Christian. I mean, seriously? Yeah. And they finished behind Nazareth Prep. And they beat Nazareth Prep. They beat Char Houston and Fort Cherry, but I don't understand these seedings at all. I think Sarah Monessen definitely, but does it really matter if they're where they are, Sarah Monessen? But I just don't think Nazareth Prep deserve the number 2 seed. So they'll avoid Neighborhood Academy until probably, it'll be the championship game.
No, I agree. I think the reason why they went number 2 is because of the fact they were section champ, and it's the easy place to put them. And I agree.
But there's other classes they have a section champ, and they have a section champ, and they put them lower. I mean,
know they did the same thing, and we'll be talking about the other one coming up in our
6A.
next.
We're going to get to it right now. 6A girls. And what they did at 1A boys is not what they did at 6A girls.
Steve picked Neighborhood Academy to win in the 1A boys, and we'll be back after this quick break with our breakdown of the girls brackets coming up. Hi, how are you today? I'm Post-Gazette High School Sports Editor Keith Barnes. I'm here with my colleagues Brad Everett and Mike White. We're breaking down the WPIAL brackets that were announced today. We're moving on to the girls. We're going to start in 6A, and this was a head scratcher, and it still is to me. But when you look at how this bracket was broken down, you have 3 teams from Section 2, 1, 2, 3, and you have post-section champs from Section 1 playing each other in the first round of the playoffs. Brad, take it away on this one, because I'm just shaking my head.
Yeah, I think the coast section champs, playing in the first round is definitely pretty interesting. I don't know if we've seen too many examples of that over the years. The seeding with 3 from the same section. It's odd, but too, we could have seen that in 5A boys if it had been Char Valley, Lincoln Park, and Moon. So that wouldn't have been too odd if that was the case. But it was definitely a little surprised. I had picked I don't know if we want to go into predictions now, or do we want to get?
You can jump into predictions. We can keep just roll it as we go.
All right, cool. Well, for Cannon Mac, I picked them to win a title last year, and I think I was a year early on them. They came up short in the semifinals to Norwin, and you could obviously go a lot of different ways in this bracket, but that was a young Cannon Mac team last year. A lot of juniors on that team, more experience this year. and they're used to playing in that, they have that big game experience having played in that game last year. So I think that's going to help them this time around. And I think the Big Macs, I think they pull it off and win the title.
Well, I'll go here. Here's my thing with it. First off, it is hard to seed teams and keep them away from sections when you only have 8 teams in the tournament. I give you that. But what you did in single A boys, now you turned around and did the total opposite, no consistency in 6A girls. And when I speak of that, I mean you seeded Upper St. Clair third because what? They beat Pine Richland in Seneca Valley in non-section games. Great. Understand that. Single A boys, you seeded Nazareth Prep number 2. They lost to Monessen and Sarah, who weren't even section champs, but you still seeded them number 2. I think I think if you're Pine and Seneca, they just played last week. And you're going, really? Do we have to play again? We're co-section champs. What? They used to do this sometimes when Tim O'Malley was there. They would do the seeds, but they would say they're not really true seeds, okay? That meaning because of a home game or a section champ. And I think they could have solved things by just doing this. Number 1, Canamac plays Lebo up or North Hills winner. They have that. Number 2, Norwin should play number 7, North Allegheny. Number 3, you want to keep Upper St. Clair? Number 3, fine. They play number 6, Seneca Valley. We know Seneca Valley is not a number 6 seed, but you do some creative seeding to make it a little more accurate. And then you put Pine Richland number 4 where you had them, and you put Hempfield at number 5. There should be some kind of benefit to tying for your section championship. Okay, you don't want to seed them ahead of Upper St. Clair because they lost. I get that. But to play them again, as I said, you could have said, you know what, these aren't really totally accurate seedings, which they did sometimes, and done it that way, played Hempfield against Pine. And I think everybody would have been more, okay with that. What do you guys think?
Who do you have as the winner?
Oh, I'm going to pick Norwin. I'm going to pick Norwin as a winner.
I actually agree with you. When I did the seedings, I had Canamac, I had Norwin, and then I split it up. I had 3 and 4 as Seneca Valley and Pine Richland, and then I had them playing off. So everybody was playing off section. So you had no section matchups in the first round, and it could have easily been done if you want to do it that way. That was how I saw it. I know Upper St. Clair beat Seneca Valley, beat Pine Richland, but they're an 11 and 10 team that finished third in its section. And you're going to put 2 section champions playing each other in the first round. Which would you rather have? If you think Upper St. Clair is that good of a team, fine. Then have them in as a 6 or have them in as a 5. Have them play the section champs in the first round and beat them again. It's that simple. Instead of having this and having this kind of a controversy and having 2 section champions playing each other in the first round.
I still think they could have left St. Clair third, and they would have got a home game because give them credit. They did beat both of them, but you could have done some creative seeding and still kept things the same way and split up Seneca Valley and Pine Richland. And
I haven't picked my winner yet. I'm going to go with Steve on this one since I have his picks. We're both picking Norwin. And here's why I'm picking Norwin over Canamac. I saw the last game, but the big thing that's missing for Norwin right now is Ava Christopher. She's their best player. She's a senior. She's coming back from an injury, and she's right now day to day. She could get medically cleared at any point in time, and she's going to get some playing time coming in. You got that feeling. And if they make it all the way to the peak, that gives her another month to heal up. So she's going to be there for that third matchup against Cannon McMillan, and she's a difference maker for them, and that's going to be the difference for them winning the WPIAL title this year, in my opinion. Let's move on. Class 5A. Was there anybody who thought that South Fayette wasn't going to get the number 1 seed? Raise your hand.
Stunned. Absolutely stunned.
Yeah, really. I can't believe it. How can you give this team the number 1 seed? I don't know how the WPIAL did that one. Wow, that's just such an overrated team. I can't believe they got number 1. And if anybody wants to send me letters about that, you've got to know I'm absolutely kidding. Because man, that team is loaded for bear. They should be the number 1 team. They're defending state champions. And I don't think there's anybody in 5A that could really contest them within 20 points, maybe TJ. But other than that, I think they're going to steamroll to the WPL title this year.
Well, I will say this. Legacies of teams and players, especially teams, are created in the postseason. If they go on and keep doing what they have been doing, which I think they might, in the WPIAL and state playoffs and win a state championship, I think they have to go down as one of the greatest teams in WPIAL history. I mean, their margin of victory against 18 WPIAL teams is 40.3 points a game. And yeah, okay, you want to talk about individual talent? No, they don't have anybody going to UConn or a top 20 school, but 3 seniors going to Division I schools. Their 2 other starters have offers from Division I schools. I mean, who has that? 5 players in the starting lineup that have either offers or committed to Division I schools. And I really think, and I think they might, if they go on and keep doing this and they win every game by 20 or more in the playoffs, they have to be one of the best teams in WPIAL history. So South Fayette, your legacy is yet to be created, but you could have a great one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and pick them to win it.
Yeah.
That's a crazy pick, Mike. I don't know why you would ever do a thing like that.
Yeah, really.
That team, I mean, they would be able to make a case for being one of the better teams from the WPIAL, ever, probably. I think, hands down, easily the best team in the WPIAL, they're in any class. I would have been interested to see if they wouldn't have lost that team to the team from Florida. That's a team that I think could have been nationally ranked right now if it wasn't for that loss. We haven't had that for a while. And by the way, that team they lost to was Miami Country Day from Florida, one of the top teams in Florida. They are pushing for a state title. They beat a team last week by 100 points, by 100.
Was it Geibel?
Oh, yeah, I knew somebody was going there. It was eventually going to go there. Well, it wasn't Mapletown, was it? Oh,
it was not.
It was not.
But,
okay.
But I'm going to agree with that too. I'm going to go with South Fayette there as my pick. As far as other teams that can make a push, TJ, of course, Maggie Spell. We've been watching her play for a couple years now, and she's a dynamite player. So, but to have so much talent and depth that South Fayette has, it's just going to be really hard.
Geez, I need to interrupt Brad for 1 second. Brad, wasn't there a song by TJ puts a spell on you? Wasn't there a song by Janet Jackson? I put a spell on you. Wasn't there years ago?
No.
Yes, there was.
There was.
I've got a crush on you.
Oh, you're right.
Song. I put a spell on you is a completely different song. It's from like the 60s.
Well, I made a new one. I put a spell on you. You're right. It is a crush, but I made a new one.
Well, it could be abracadabra time, and let's magically go into 4A. And this was kind of interesting to see what the committee was going to do. They took Blackhawk, the undefeated team, as number 1, which they didn't do in 2A boys, and put Oakland Catholic number 2. So, Brad, what do you think of that?
I mean, I was fine with it. Blackhawk, being the undefeated team, I thought that they should have been the number 1 seed. Now I was fine with Oakland number 2. I've been rooting for that matchup, hopefully in the championship. Of course, that controversial final last year and, came down to the last couple seconds. Oakland Catholic got the win, but I think Blackhawk, I'm sure they probably have somewhere written in their locker room that they want to play Oakland Catholic again. They want to avenge that loss. And, I think that's something they do this year. Despite Oakland, of course, Josie Fontana down low, Maddie Poland, seems to always hit big shots for them. But I like Blackhawk to come on top, and it'll be a sweeter year at the Pete for them as opposed to last season.
Keith,
Mike, I'll tell you what. I'm going to say one other name that you'd miss on Oakland Catholic, and that's Troxler Scott. She is amazing. And when you see Z Troxler Scott play and the way she's able to compliment Josie Fontana from the inside outside, I see Oakland Catholic winning this game. Steve does too, by the way. And, I've seen Oakland Catholic play North Catholic twice, and they're just head and shoulders above them this year. And that is kind of surprising because, I know Molly Rotman's a great coach. This is still a fairly young team. Your best players are Sam Weir. She's a sophomore. She's got another year to come. I think next year is their year. But when you look at Blackhawk and you've got Aubrey Hupp, who's an outstanding player, do not get me wrong, but she can get she's going to do what she's going to do. She's going to dominate that game, down low, outside, do what she does. But then you've got Josie Fontana. Then you've got everybody kind of rotating around for Oakland Catholic. You've got 5 girls that can come at you from everywhere. And I don't think Blackhawk has that. They might be undefeated, but they don't have what Oakland Catholic has as far as overall team talent. And I just see the Eagles winning that game.
Well, you look at I wouldn't have had any problem with either of those teams being number 1 seed, but Blackhawk did beat Neshannock, Pine Richland, Upper St. Clair, and Cannon McMillan. Those are all very high seeded teams. So I could see why you'd give it to Blackhawk. Oakland Catholic, they beat Shadyside. They crushed Shadyside. They beat Alder Ice and beat McDowell too. And Josie Fontana is going to Richmond. 2 Richmond recruits in these playoffs. The other one, Erica Gribble. But this is a top 4 where defense reigns. You look at this. Oakland allows only 26 points a game, number 1 WPIAL. Blackhawk allows only 30 a game. Bell Vernon, the number 4 seed, 33 a game. And North Catholic, the number 3 seed, 34 a game. Bell Vernon, 33 a game. So defense will be on display in this, but sometimes, and especially in the playoffs, teams can play a little closer to the vest offensively and don't score as much maybe. But I think whoever gets their offense going is going to win this, and I think that will be Oakland Catholic.
I'll tell you one thing you mentioned Bell Vernon. That's a very, very, very young team, and they are going to be really good next year. That's the team to watch out for as potential WPL champion next year. They are just that good, and I think with another year they're going to get a little bit better. I got to see them, and there's something special happening at Bell Vernon. I will say that. Let's move on now. 3A, the number 1 seed. I don't think anybody had any question it was going to be Shadyside Academy, especially after Beaver Falls lost that late game in overtime against Neshannock. Shadyside Academy is a team that, quite honestly, if Cassie Sauer doesn't get hurt last year, I think they win the state title. They were that good, and losing a 6'2" girl who could play inside and complement Karis Thomas on the outside. Losing that dynamic really hurt them. To make the run they did to the state championship, I think that said a lot about John Burke's coaching ability and a lot about this team. I think they're going to be hungry this year. Cassie Sauer's back and healthy, and I think this is their year. They're going to win.
Yeah, Sauer being injured last year was, huge, of course, just like you said, Keith. And yeah, like if it wasn't for that, they'd be going for a 4P right now. Yeah. And I think between between Karis Thomas and Sauer, that combo, can't really be matched in that classification. It seems like we've been hearing about Karis Thomas. Mike, you did that story on her. Goodness,
she was in 6th grade. She was in 6th grade.
In 6th grade. So we're coming up on 7 years ago. You did that story, and I think she's been a name since back going to 4th grade. She was doing her stuff. With
that was when Duquesne. She was in 4th grade. That was when Duquesne offered her.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little had to do with her mother being sick and everything, but Dan Burt said he'd keep that offer on the table forever. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I saw her in 6th grade. I was in a gym with her, and when I did the story, interviewed her, and I still remember that. Great girl. Really, she said some tough things in her life, losing her mother and father, and she's really become, I think, a great story. And kudos to her. She's going for 2,000 points tonight, as a matter of fact.
Nice. So who you got, and who do you guys have in 3A?
Well, I want to say something real fast. I want to give a shout out, and a team that I'd like to see is Quaker Valley, the number 4 seed, and only because of Mimi Thero. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that she has to be the player of the year this year. I mean, 29.3 points, 15.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 4 blocks a game, shooting 46% from the field, 35% from a 6'4", 6'5" girl from 3-point range. And it's not like she's taken like 20 of them. She's made 46 3-pointers. I mean, and she carries that team. And I don't think she has a lot around her. And the key to them, they're not going to win a championship, but I'd love to see them get to the semifinals maybe and see what happens. The key to them is what the others do for Quaker Valley.
Exactly, and that's the problem. There's just not that much around her. She's
I'm going
carrying the team.
I got Shady Side.
You got Shady Side. We know Steve has Shady Side as well because he's been all over Shady Side for years. So he's like the Shady Side PR guy right now.
He's the mayor of Shady Side.
He absolutely is, and that's a good thing. Okay, we'll go to 2A now. And I don't think there was any doubt coming in. You know, what's really interesting about 2A is if Neshannock wins the WPIAL title and makes it to the state championship, Luann Grabowski will win her 800th game in the state semifinals if that happens. And what a career she has had as a head coach. And this team has a chance. This is a very, very good team top to bottom.
If they have a chance.
Just a little one. I said to win a state title. I didn't say just win in Whitfield.
Okay.
No, I did not limit them to the WPIAL. I'm saying the state championship. I'm picking Neshannock to win the WPIAL without a doubt.
Yeah, me too. I bet you Brad will go out on a limb and pick them too. I bet.
He did.
She's won 6 championships, and only 6 have won 7 championships. So she's putting herself in maybe more elite company with a championship. Team I'm going to go as a sleeper for Cherry. I'm not going to say they're going to win a championship. They only allow 28 points a game. Defense means something in the playoffs.
I think they might lose to Riverview in the first round.
I don't know if Riverview's leading scorer. She was hurt. Is she back? Is she going to play?
If she's back. I give them a shot in the first round.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think,
I'm gonna go with Neshannock, just like you guys. I really like Peyton Newman. I mean, she's been such a good player for them the last couple of years, and she's a load to deal with down low. And it seems like they've had a no-gay there for at least 25 years now. And James, So like they're loaded again, and I'm definitely not going against Miss Grabowski there, and of course Jasmine Hollins and Deshae Cochran could help Winchester Thurston go on a run there. They've had some success in the past, so but I'd like the Lancers to take it again.
What's funny is you mentioned Jayden Noge. When I saw them against St. Joe's in a tournament this year, in a Christmas tournament, she was coming off the bench for them, and she's still scoring double digits. I mean, she's been a 6th man for them. If that continues, that is a load off the bench, and a lot of teams are not going to be able to handle her, and a lot of teams haven't been able to handle her. That's a big thing moving forward. And speaking of coming off the bench, let's go to 1A here. This is interesting because we were talking about people coming off the bench and not having benches, not being able to have bench players and things like that. And Mike knows what I'm talking about here with the situation. But we're talking about what happened with Mapletown and Geibel when Geibel scored 30 points in the 4th quarter against a running clock and hung 100 on Mapletown. And I'm not sure if the WPIAL punished them or not. But they did lose to Sarah Catholic in their last game, and they went from a potential 1 seed all the way down to 4. And I don't know. I don't know if the WPLA had anything to say about that, or if that was a punishment for them. But they went from a possible 1 to a 4. So let's go from there. Brad, what do you see there?
I mean, I like the Geibel team, though. I like the fact that not only do they have a high-scoring guard in Emma Larkin, which we've seen 1A teams have that star player that they can just, put a team on their back and take them a long way. But I like this Mallory Clemmer too down low. She just gives them a nice post presence and a nice 1-2 punch down there. Now, that said, they're not going to win the Whitfield title. I think Aquinas is the team. They have been on the doorstep so many times. And I think this year with Tess Dewar there, having a huge year, her brother Sam on the boys team, hoping to lead the Crusaders on a run in the boys bracket. But I think Aquinas, I think they finally get it done. This will be the first Whitfield title in any sport for the Crusaders. So I like them to prevail.
Mike?
I agree with you. I'm going to go with Aquinas also. But Keith, you mentioned about the Sarah and Geibel thing. I don't know this for a fact or anything, but did the WPIAL maybe want to split up those 2 teams and not have them 2 and 3 because they're from the same section? So they put them 4. So I don't know if that's what was behind their thinking. But if it was behind their thinking, well, then why the heck didn't you not do that with Pine Ridge and Seneca Valley? But, Well, speaking of Larkin and Mallory Clemmer, though, Brad, this would be only the sixth time since 1982-83 that two players on the same team have averaged 20 or more in the regular season, and they're going to do that. So that's quite a 1-2 punch here. But I think, I agree with Brad. I'm going to go with Aquinas. Union's won 3 in a row. Only 6 teams have won 4 in a row, but they're not the same team as they were the last couple of years. I'm going to go with Aquinas also.
Steve went with Aquinas as well. I'm going that way. I'm going that way too. I got to see Union play, and they played St. Joe's, and that was not a fun game to watch by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, why'd you go to that game anyway?
Because there were 2 ranked teams, and I had nothing better to do that night. So anyway, but yeah, I made the drive out, and I checked them out. I wanted to see them play. I wanted to see these guys play, and Union is definitely not the team they were last year. I mean, you don't have a first door for playing for them this year for sure. And Sarah with Bella Dombrowski, with Abby Genius, they're a team that can make a run. And I think if they get hot, they could actually win. I'm still kind of vacillating between the two. But since I picked Sarah boys to win, I'm going to go with Aquinas to win the girls because I don't want to look like a complete homer. So anyway, but any last reactions to the brackets? Any last predictions? Anything like that?
Well, I have a question. Doesn't have to do with WPIAL. Who do you guys think is going to win the 2 city championships, boys and girls, this weekend? Let's give them a shout out.
Yes,
absolutely. I say Alderdice and Alderdice. Although Obama girls do a bigger run at it.
I know. I'm going Obama girls, and one of the things I want to know is Eric James eligible for the playoffs for Obama because he transferred. He's a senior. I don't know if he's eligible for the playoffs, but even if he is, I'm going Alderdice.
Brad, you beat that game. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm going to take Alderdice on both sides.
Brad, do you know if Eric James is eligible for the playoffs?
That's a good question. I do not. They're playing those semifinal games on Monday night or Tuesday night?
I think Tuesday night. I don't think they're playing tonight.
Okay.
So I guess we'll find out.
Maybe check their bracket. See if you can read theirs.
I
mean, it can't be any worse.
No.
Yeah. No, it can't. All right. And on that note, I'd like to thank my colleagues here, Mike White and Brad Everett from the Post-Gazette. And we'll check back with this throughout the playoffs. And at the end of the day, we'll come out and say what predictions we got right and which ones we didn't. And for my colleagues and for Steve Rodstein, who could not be with us tonight, I am Post-Gazette High School sports editor Keith Barnes, and you guys have a great time and enjoy the WPIAL playoffs.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.